free of grooves, moving us toward or away from anything past. Presently honest, able to be magnetized or repulsed, immersed in intimacy without conceptual fidelity. No, I will always or I will never. Liberate the magnet-sensing truths, always faithful not to circumstances but itself. Vows, commitments, promises pull in opposition to the truth moment. It is indeed a radical act to let truth organize us, remove what obstructs the internal sense that redirects us to comfortable habit. It takes effort to block the pull of truth. A soul that tethers to its familiar haunts blinding, deafening, pulling against its own nature, unaware of the truth to which it is tethered. What is freedom if it has no space for our hearts? Eyes shut resistance gives way to an eyes open grateful, a gaze open to what truth wants. Eros must speak. What does her voice sound like? Can you attune your ears to her? I worked knowing this day would come, the day after the end of the world. I worked in silence and in haste, unsure if what I saw ahead was a mirage, the mirage of a re-emergence or the madness of having made a descent. Coming up from where madness issues, the world looks so different than from above. Unfamiliar, foreign, at the same time more familiar than breath itself. The memory cellular pulls you back to ancestors who will remind you how to re-enliven an intelligence that lies dormant waiting to spread. The rational mind would burn the fragile memory that quivers on the tip of the tongue. We teach it to relax, to keep its harsh light from evaporating the truths into an indecipherable mist. We shift from hearty demands that the mystery give up her secrets to the heartfelt request to be granted entry. The truth speaks a subtle, intuitive, seductive, and evocative language. It holds paradox. It asks that we be both persistent and receptive, to engage in a creative dance with mystery. To be a student of life, we look inside of life itself, not the outer world of seeing by light and hearing by sound, but the inner consciousness of eye and ear, attuned to the unlit vast reality from which the forces that move us to true joy reside. In darkness is the intimacy we yearn for and shy away from. It is a movement made from the interior experience, the essential, the primal, rather than the objective, distant witness. The promise of Eros is entry, not going beyond but inside, entering the profane that calls us back to the pulse of creation. Gathering in the filament that ties us to nature, we discover the encoding that initiates us into the art of making love, that allows us to look at anything and ask ourselves, can I love this? From within this question, the instruction of Eros unfolds. Eros apprentices us in the precision of opening to only the most attentive and refined contact. She exists within every aspect of the world of appearances, can be accessed from alleyways and cathedral sidewalks to mountaintops. Fear of life's natural force has caused us to contract and control Eros. While it remains imprisoned, shackled to sex, lack of access keeps life's gifts of creativity and radiance locked in the cellar of consciousness. When it so clearly spills over into all aspects of who we are, why is Eros confined to the purely sexual? What are we afraid of? The thread, the feminine force of nature, the power that has been caged and made small for personal use. That which is repressed returns with a vengeance, forcing us to hit bottom where you confront a reckoning of the soul. Over time, nature's sheer voltage will always trump form and concept. Living aligned with natural law, the nearly impossible edict to let go becomes a natural outcome. When you let your senses be reoriented to and guided by magnetism, you discover that what is magnetized to you cannot be escaped, and what is not cannot be gripped for long. If what we create is not in accord with natural law, it will disintegrate. In accord, it will thrive. Eros unites the heart's warring parties of having and wanting in precious tension, perfect paradoxical cohabitation, free from jealousy, possession, and gripping passion. Duality melts into union, connecting us to the voltage that powers and bonds all things. The result is a completed circuit, allowing us to touch the whole of life, even without touching, even without seeing. The erotic world is 180 degrees different from the everyday world we know. We're so fixated on filling absence or keeping it empty that we have not learned how to allow the fullness of radiating desire that balances connection and individual integrity, bestowing solitude and connection, intimacy and solitude. The body becomes the laboratory for learning to hear the truths that can only be spoken through the language of experience. Eros reveals the stifled truths of natural law, intuition, desire, the daemonic and the undifferentiated primal level of being, the true feminine. The visceral power of love fuels realization, giving us the chance to love others into their greatness rather than bludgeoning them out of their badness through punishment. You already know, or else you would not find yourself here, that Eros is not for the timid, fragile, or those seeking to hide in a maternal embrace. The true feminine is birth, death, disintegration, generation, chaos, unfairness, capriciousness, and lack of resolution. Eros is impersonal and indifferent as to whether or not we feel destroyed, because it is she who holds the secrets of our rebirth. Eros is the ocean. Even in shallow waters there are breakers. Fully enter her, and her powerful undertow will wring the fight from you. Thrashing exhausts us, resulting in drowning. Our only option is to surrender to the pull of Eros luring us into genius, ending the scarcity treadmill that drains us in our struggle to fill a bottomless well. Eros asks us to move precisely toward what we fear, the experience of being drenched, coming into contact with the eternal, of true intimacy and the ferocious dynamism of the undiluted and unfiltered reality of love. If you want to know that truth, then welcome. Your soul has been waiting to speak with you. As you embark into the darkness, know that it exists in order to love you back to yourself.